What's going on, you guys? This is your boy RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, bringing you my video on Dragon Ball game Project Age 1000, a title that suggests that this could be the potential sequel and third installment in the Xenoverse series. A lot of people have been speculating on this because, to be honest, a Xenoverse 3 has been long overdue. Xenoverse 2 came out in 2016, and it's been almost a decade since we've seen another installment. And if you've been a long time subscriber of this channel, then you know it's been almost 10 years since I even talked about that particular game. Like, I was one of the guys when it came to bringing you all the news on Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2, but everything came to a screeching halt, and I'll elaborate later on in the video. But we got to talk about this announcement, the Dragon Ball game Project Age 1000, a project that was announced 3 days ago at the Dragon Ball genkidamatsuri event, which in my honest opinion is the perfect event for this particular title to be announced because it's so synonymous with Dragon Ball Age 1000, because that's an event that tells you the future of Dragon Ball, what Toei and Bandai have planned, all the different things from the games as well as the anime. And Age 1000, when you hear that name, you instantly think of the future because that's what it is. It's basically a timeline that takes place after all of the events we've seen regarding Goku and his friends. Like, we're talking 200 plus years. Pretty much anybody on Earth can transform into a Super Saiyan since the Earthlings have become crossbred with the Saiyan race. And Piccolo and Dende are no longer the token Namekians since their race has since migrated over to the Earth and terraformed it a bit to mirror their home world. And if you guys are familiar with these particular story elements, then you most likely played or you did a bit of research on the game Dragon Ball Online, a title that was all the rage back in the early 2010s, but unfortunately was short-lived after the developers decided to pull the plug and shut down the servers. But all hope wasn't lost since this game would eventually be revived by the fans with the power of mods, not to mention that it would serve as a bible for future Dragon Ball Z games that would utilize time traveling elements, i.e. Dragon Ball Heroes and Dragon Ball Xenoverse, with the latter serving as the spiritual successor of DBO. But anyways, let's talk about the trailer for Dragon Ball game Project Age 1000, because even though this thing has sparked a lot of positive speculation, there's also been a bit of negative, and that's in regards to Akira Toriyama's involvement in the project, because Bandai Namco has made it a point to say that he is, at least in regards to the character designs. And many of the fans within the community have questioned that, because it really feels like all the entities involved with the Dragon Ball licenses have essentially used Akira Toriyama's name to drive more sales towards their products. The Dragon Ball Z community has always been about authenticity, and we love knowing that the original author was involved with a project. And since he's no longer with us and all these things could serve as posthumous projects, it's going to give us more incentive to pick these things up. But I feel like I have to give Bandai Namco and all the other entities the benefit of the doubt, because during his final years, Akira Toriyama stayed extremely busy designing characters and concepts for different projects that exist outside of Dragon Ball Z. We're talking things such as Dragon Quest, which is a video game series that he's been working on since the very beginning. We're talking all the way back to the late 80s, where he designed all the characters and monsters. You also have to keep in mind that all of these different games and projects take years to make. A lot of production value goes into them, and Akira Toriyama has only been dead for a year, not years. Dragon Quest 12, The Flames of Fate, was announced back in 2021, and according to Square Enix, this is going to be the final game where it features the designer Akira Toriyama as well as the music composer Koichi Sugiyama. And then we have Dragon Ball game Project Age 1000 that's been said to have been worked on for the past 6 to 7 years, which is believable since Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 was a game that was already working with a lot of pre-existing assets from the previous title, not to mention that the development team over at Dimps was basically just giving us add-ons for the better half of a decade. And if they are working on this title like many suspect, then they were most likely already doing so while making the DLC for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. So it's not really hard to believe that Toriyama was heavily involved with all these projects leading up to his death. I mean, the guy was heavily involved with the design concepts and overall supervision of Dragon Ball Online all those years back. And like I said, that's a game whose concepts get utilized and referenced in newer titles, so they could essentially just base it off of those facts alone stone and say that yeah, Akira Toriyama was involved in some kind of way, since we're using all the things that he presented in Dragon Ball Online. And this isn't a new thing where Shueisha and all the parties involved with the DBZ license just go out of their way to point out Akira Toriyama's involvement with a project, because they've been doing it since he was alive, dating as far back as Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods. So yeah. And looking at this character right here, I truly believe that Akira Toriyama did in fact design him, because it perfectly falls in line with the design philosophy he had later on down the line when drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, where instead of giving them these overly buff bodies with a lot of detail and striations on the arms and chest, he would make them a lot more lean and sleek. The edges of the characters' bodies aren't pointy anymore, they're a lot rounder, including the feet. And this always felt like he was kind of bringing that style that he used to have in the earlier days back to the forefront, just coming back with a healthy medium. You're still gonna get those beefy characters, those muscly characters, but they're not gonna be as cut and edgy and pointy as they used to be in things like the Cell Saga and the Buu Saga. Like, I think that's what he was truly bringing to the table with Super Saiyan God 1, when a lot of people were showing a lot of backlash towards that. A more simplistic style that didn't have the big bulky frame. It was a lot sleeker and the feet were a lot rounder, and we would see that style sort of transition over to the later properties in Dragon Ball Super, such as Dragon Ball Super Broly. They also did it, with Dragon Ball Super Superhero following suit. And if you ask me, this guy looks like he could fit well within Dragon Ball Superhero, since he's a hybrid CGI cell shaded character. And I'm honestly hoping that this is going to be the design philosophy going for this title, especially if it's going to be a Xenoverse 3, right? Because that's arguably the biggest issue I had with the Xenoverse series when it comes to characters. All of the characters are overly buff and they look like action figures with that shiny gloss to them. But this guy, as well as the henchmen that he's going up against that are a lot buffer, they look like they have that healthy medium, and they just have that Akira Toriyama signature style that he would adapt in his later years of living. Yeah, that's the style that I want for this, man. Something within the realm of Dragon Ball Super Broly. But anyways, as you can see, it looks like he's in some kind of training simulation where he's going up against these dark henchmen, and if you notice, he's pulling off a lot of familiar moves from different points in Dragon Ball history, such as the fighting stance Goku used before he engaged in his first battle with Vegeta, and the epic spinning kick that Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta performed on Broly, showing that this guy has Dragon Ball Z recorded on his DVR, or he went back in history throughout all the different time periods these moves were performed. And this is obviously giving you the idea of what you can expect with the avatar that you create for this particular game, since most fans prefer to make their own character and give them their own specific move set that comes from the show. And the thing that really intrigued me about this trailer is when it shows the character looking like he's going to power up, right? But when it zooms into his eye, it also hints at the fact that we're going to be seeing even more racist slash character types that you can pick in this game. Like, we've recently been able to create characters based on the Saiyans, the Earthlings, the Majins, the Namekians, and the Frieza race, but now it looks like there are going to be different categories that go beyond that, because once it goes into this dimension or his mind's eye, you see the silhouettes of characters like Broly, Cell, and even Beerus, suggesting that we could essentially have the legendary or full-powered Super Saiyan, the androids, as well as a god. And I know a lot of you are going to say that I'm reaching with this, but that's just how I feel, because with each Dragon Ball Z installment like these shows, we get newer forms, and we want to achieve those forms in the game, and even go through similar instances such as Goku did to obtain them. Whatever the case may be, I still expect there to be a lot of variety when it comes to movesets and fighting styles. And since this is going to be the Age 1000, I'm expecting them to pull original ideas that we never got to see over here in the States from Dragon Ball Online. While I enjoyed the idea of reliving and reshaping history with the old Dragon Ball Z stories, I do wish to experience the things that other players got to experience in DBO, where the timeline is moving forward as opposed to always moving backwards. I would also like to see what it's like to exist in the real world in the Age of 1000, as opposed to just being isolated in this hub world like Toki Toki City and Kanton City. Those were nice and all, but I just want to see the actual natural progression of the real world, especially on Earth, because like I said, in Dragon Ball Online, so much has happened since the early days of the Z Fighters, and I would like to run run around in a open world type setting. And also guys, once again, I just have to reiterate that I'm not saying that this is a Xenoverse 3. I'm just giving you an idea of what I want if it's going to be a Xenoverse 3 game or a Dragon Ball Online continuation. Either one of the two. I would just like something where it's going to be open world and continue to expand on the story of Dragon Ball Z, because there is just so many different things that I loved about DBO, such as Gohan coming up with this unique fighting technique that utilizes ki, and Trunks and Goten being able to push that fighting style even further with the sword. Those were things that I was expecting to see in Xenoverse when we first got the announcement of that particular game, but we didn't. We just saw a lot of rehashed things pertaining to story beats from Dragon Ball Z, as well as newer story beats from Super. So I really want to see those things translated to the fullest in this title, especially given the fact that we are in next gen console territory and the graphics are going to be beautiful. And last but certainly not least, the thing that I want to see most is a solid net code for this title, because that's the thing that I feel like a lot of Dragon Ball Z games have been lacking. Just a solid net code that's not going to be all stuttery or laggy. That's the bane of our existence, especially in games like Xenoverse 2, and whatever team is going to be on this, whether it be Spike, Chunsoft, or Dimps, I want to see something where it's going to be very smooth in regards to the experience. But with all that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What do you think this game is going to be? Do you think it's going to be a Xenoverse 3, or do you think it could be some type of Dragon Ball Z online game? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video and run up that hype. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets. Sharing really makes a difference. But once again, this is your boy RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.